All right, so we are going to kind of recap the first couple of phases of the MCU. So one of the biggest obstacles the MCU faces right now is gaining and retaining audience members. The universe is so vast and interconnected that unless you've seen every single project, it feels like you are missing something, or you live with the fear that you're going to be missing something if you haven't seen everything up to that point. And the unfortunate reality is that you probably are missing something. But if you don't care about the details, inside jokes, comic book references, and every thread of interrelation, then you really just need the broad strokes of what happened before. So here we go. Whether you're a tired, burnt out fan or a new audience member, I'm hoping that these short guides will help you kind of catch up on all the important information so that you can enjoy the current state of the MCU without feeling like you're missing out. So we're going to start with phase one. It's pretty short. I am just going to do broad strokes. So if you have any questions at the end, feel free to leave them for me and I will answer any specific questions you have. The franchise is built off of Iron Man, which, just so you know, at the time in 2008 when it came out, was not a popular comic book character. They really kind of plucked him, not necessarily out of obscurity, but definitely out of poor comic book sales, and decided that that's the live action character that they wanted to release. His first movie is him rewriting his father's legacy. He is ceasing the manufacturing of weapons, and the selling of those weapons to who knows who. And he builds his first Iron Man suit. So he basically reconciles with what his father's company has been doing without his knowledge because he refused to be involved in it and just liked to slap his name on stuff. Not because he wasn't responsible, just to be clear. So he's finally taking responsibility. And unlike other superheroes, you will recognize the quote, "I am Iron Man." It came from this because he didn't care about hiding. And let's be real, Tony Stark wanted the credit for everything that he was doing. That slides nicely into Iron Man 2. Because even the MCU doesn't really acknowledge the Incredible Hulk as canon, so I'm not going to either. It was a bad movie. You don't have to watch it. Bruce Banner becomes the Hulk. In Iron Man 2, we see other people are attempting to recreate the technology that Tony Stark uses for his Iron Man suit. Now, obviously, this presents a very real danger, and so he has to go in front of basically a government board, whatever, and defend his right to his technology because the government's trying to seize it from him, and he tells them to fuck off. Tony and Pepper are officially together in this movie, and he is basically giving her more and more of the company because he is under the threat of some sickness that is coming from his core that is saving his heart. We all remember that, yes. He rediscovers a new element. People like to say that he discovered all the time. He discovered nothing. His father discovered the element. He rediscovers the element that is going to keep him from being sick in his Iron Man suit, and it's palladium. He rediscovers palladium and uses that as his core for his little light thing. Him and Pepper are together. Pepper is now running the company, and we get introduced to Natasha as Black Widow, which, let's be real, is the most important part of that movie. Moving on, we have Captain America. It's his origin story. So at this point, everyone knows scrawny, disabled Steve proves he is a good man and then gets injected with super soldier serum. He saves Bucky, who spent his whole life saving Steve. So you get the origins of their brotherly bond. They were war brothers. They defeat a bunch of Nazis together, and then Bucky falls off a train and dies. Now, Steve considers him dead. The rest of the world considers him dead, but we know he was captured by Hydra. This is our first introduction to an Infinity Stone in the form of the Tesseract, which Howard Stark ends up in possession of after Steve goes in the ice. I'm going to put something to rest right here. Yes, Steve couldn't jump out of the plane. Yes, Steve had to go into the ice, blah, blah, blah. There was zero reason he couldn't give Peggy Carter his freaking coordinates as he's going down. Steve's just a dramatic ass bitch. Okay? Next, we have the first Thor movie. We get introduced to Loki. We get introduced to Jane. And more importantly, for future events, We learn of the enchantment placed on Thor's hammer. As this concept still eludes people, let me clarify some things. The enchantment is, he who is worthy shall possess the power of Thor. Now, the power of Thor is the power of Thor, not just the hammer. The whole point is that if you can wield the hammer, you can wield Thor's power. Thor is the god of thunder, so you can wield all of Thor's power if you can wield the hammer. People were confused after Endgame. There you go. So for everyone asking questions after Endgame, it was given to you very clearly within the first 30 seconds of the Thor movie. But that's fine. Anyway, Thor proves himself worthy, lifts his hammer again. Everything's fine. The last film of Phase 1 is The Avengers, our first team-up movie. The team is pulled together by Nick Fury, and immediately Steve and Tony knocking heads. Bruce obviously is tested. Clint is mind-controlled by Loki, giving Nat extra motivation to take him down, and Thor really just wants to save his brother. Loki uses the Tesseract to open a portal to space and allow the Jatari through. Just to be clear, Loki is an anti-hero and his alien invasion got out of control. I will not respond to anyone calling Loki a villain. End credit scenes for Phase 1 also introduced Thanos. Avengers is our second exposure to an Infinity Stone in the form of Loki's scepter. It's got the Mind Stone in it. Relationships of note, obviously Pepper and Tony, Thor and Jane. Steve and Tony are colleagues that end up respecting each other and tolerating each other, but they were not friends. This is going to be very important when we talk about phases 2 and 3. They're not friends. They are colleagues. Thor takes Loki back to Asgard for imprisonment. The Infinity Saga is actually pretty perfectly set up at the end of this phase. Loki being an anti-hero is also set up pretty obviously. And those are all the relevant notes from phase 1. So feel free to drop any specific questions and I will be happy to answer them.